It's your favourite local psychologist here, coming to you live, as I always do, on a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. I hope you are all feeling well. I feel like the really cold weather is starting to shift just slightly. I don't know, I could be being overly positive here, but it has been very windy though, I must admit. But I feel like we're starting to go into the warmer months, and I'm getting a little bit excited. I could be imagining things, but I don't know. It hasn't been as cold in the morning when I've been getting up, so that's always a good thing. So how are we all tonight? I've got an exciting topic. I don't know about you guys, but I reckon I'm going to get a few live watches tonight in relation to this topic. So if you are watching Psych Chrissy tonight, give me a wave, give me a like, give me a share, tell me you're here. I love to hear from you guys. I love connecting with the local community. So feel free to post your comments. Whether I can see them or not's another thing. Sometimes Facebook will show me, sometimes it doesn't. I've got the Facebook page here though that I can have a quick look at and see if there are any comments rolling up, just in case the little comments on the video are not working. So guys, tonight we are talking about unsupportive partners. And look, we don't have to deem, your partner unsupportive all of the time. It could even be stages or certain situations that you might experience your partner being unsupportive. So tonight I'm going to give you some tips and tricks and some good strategies that you can use if you're sitting there and you're wondering why your partner's being unsupportive and what the heck you need to do about it. So I've got some real gold nuggets to share with you guys tonight, because a lot of the time, in private practice, in my correctional work, even in my business coaching life, I'm consistently trying to support clients to deal with their relationships, so this topic often comes up, guys. So if you're sitting there thinking, should I be listening to this, or what should I do, or should I be getting help? Absolutely. It's a very, very common experience, and it can be more frequent in some relationships than others, that at times you may encounter just feeling unsupported. So I am here to let you guys know. I can see some people tagging their partners in this post, so that's going to be interesting. So tag your partner or not, depending on whether they might feel offended by that. But it's Psych Chrissy here tonight with you guys, sharing all the tips and tricks to having to deal with a situational circumstance where your partner may not being, is that even a word? I don't know. They may not be as supportive as you would like. So let's crack into it, guys. So one of the big things that I often have to talk to my clients about when they're coming to me with issues of feeling unsupported or, feeling dismissed or whatever that might be, is that I have to tell them that the only way that this can be resolved is via communication. So communication plays a very, very pivotal role to you being able to identify the situation and then also communicate what it is that you're feeling unsupported about. Also, not just what you're feeling unsupported about, but how you're feeling in a certain situation. So an emotional exchange of, what your partner, I suppose, identifying the problem behavior, and then obviously being able to talk about how that problematic behavior makes you feel in that moment, with your partner, of course, not just bagging it out to your friends. Because we can all be a little bit inclined that way, that we often vent about our feelings and what's going on and what the problem behaviours are, but we don't share it with the person that's pissing us off. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges, or, rule number one of addressing problem situations in relationships is you actually have to confront the person about it. You can't just vent to all your friends and your family and whoever else about it and then just kind of grunt around the house expecting that your partner's going to know what the heck's going on. So talking about your feelings, identifying the problem behavior, and obviously articulating, why it is that problematic behavior or that, I suppose, identified unsupport. And it could be, a situation like, and this is very common, and these are these are the reasons why I have these scenarios, because I've heard them a million times, that you're trying to communicate to your partner about a difficulty that you're having and they're just not listening to what it is that you have to say, or they're bringing up their own opinions and they're putting their own 2 bobs worth in on what they think you should be doing to manage that problem situation. Or you can feel unsupported in lots of different ways. It can be what they say, how they say it, what they don't say, that can be the challenging part. So being able to identify that, let them know how that makes you feel, and then the most important part is about letting your partner know exactly how they need to support you. So one of the biggest difficulties or the miscommunications or the mismatches that I see in relationships, misunderstandings, whatever you want to call them, is that a lot of the time there's an expectation that's not being met. And on the other side of it, the partner actually doesn't know what the expectation is, and they don't actually know how to support. So there's a real kind of disconnect there in what one person is expecting and how they want to be supported, and the other person's actual knowledge of what that is and how to do it. So part of the communication is about trying to really bridge that gap, not automatically assuming that your partner is armed with all of that high level information, that you're sitting there going, well, they should know that. You've got these expectations that are consistently not being met, and then the other person's sitting there just wondering what the heck's going on, and they're really none the wiser about how to respond or what to do to fix it. So, being really clear about that, making sure that they understand that, so that you throw them a lifeline, give them an opportunity to respond to your needs in that way and to be able to support you in the way that you would like. So, I often teach I statements in that communication transaction. So, an I statement is almost like a prescriptive way of articulating everything that I just mentioned. So it often starts with being able to state your feelings. So I feel upset, angry, frustrated, annoyed, dismissed, whatever it might be, when, and then you name the troublesome behavior, situation, whatever it is that you want dealt with, without pointing the finger. So for example, it might be that your partner's not listening to you in the way that you would like. So you would say something like, I feel frustrated when I'm not listened to, and what I'd like is, and then you name the desired behavior or situation or outcome. And what I'd like is to feel supported by, having eye contact when I'm communicating, acknowledging that I've been heard, naming all of those indicators that you expect when you feel like somebody's listening. Okay, so I statements are a really good way of communicating what the problem is, what you want to see done differently, and communicating feelings. So that's a good start in terms of the prescription to communication and how you can allow that to, eventuate in your communication conversation with your partner. So another important rule, or no, I don't even want to call it a rule, but something that I find really does help relationships in situations where you're not feeling supported, is that when you're not feeling supported, that you don't return serve on that. You don't, and I'm gonna name it this, and this is a favourite term of some of my corrections clients when I'm working in family violence programs and things like that. I frame this up as the pissing contest. So you don't get into a pissing contest in terms of who's not meeting each other's needs. So if they're being unsupportive, if you were to start engaging in a pissing contest, you would actually return serve and stop being supportive as well. And the outcome is their needs don't get met, your needs don't get met, and actually the conflict situations and the level of feeling unsupported skyrockets, which is not what anybody wants. So not returning serve or entering into a pissing contest is a very, very critical factor in terms of being able to remedy that situation. Being able to communicate, like I said, using the I statements, being open in your communication is a far more productive and adaptive way of dealing with a conflict situation rather than resorting to really unhelpful ways and almost kind of letting your resentment get the better of you and acting in sort of ways that it's almost going to end up worsening the situation than improving the situation. The other thing too is that you are also trying to lead by example. So you are role modeling supportive and open behaviors, communication styles, particularly if your partner's not very good at those skills. So you want to make sure that you are demonstrating what being supportive actually looks like. So if your partner's a little bit lost and, they just don't have those skills for a whole range of reasons, that you actually demonstrate the use of I statements, you be open in your communication, you're okay with exchanging emotions, and hopefully they're able to see how that's done and they start to model some of those behaviors based on the way that you're interacting. So that's really important, that you actually model the behavior and the interaction that you want to see, and not the opposite. Don't start modeling their unhelpful behaviors because that never turns out well. One of the other things, guys, too, is that I don't know whether you've ever heard of, I'm seeing some of the comments coming up here. Chrissy, do you have a camera somewhere in my house? You just nailed the pissing contest. I don't, but I deal with problematic relationships all the time. So I know this stuff. It's so common. And unfortunately, it's probably a dynamic that most couples have encountered from time to time. So, I don't have a camera in there, but I pretty much know what goes on in relationships, Brianna. So thanks for that. Okay, so the 5 love languages, guys, it's a book, it's a theory. I can't remember who the dude was that proposed the theory, but it's really cool and I really like it. And it's basically a theory based on the fact that we all subscribe to a certain love language. So it's about we like to be shown care and nurturing in different ways. And there's often a dominant way that we like that to be shown. So there's 5 different types. So it's words of praise, quality time, giving and receiving gifts, physical touch and affection, and acts of service. Now, we will mostly, I suppose, subscribe to one of those love languages. So the way that we feel cared, nurtured, and supported is often demonstrated when our partner is responsive in one of those 5 ways. Now, the catch on this is that sometimes there's a disconnect. So you might receive care and nurturing and support via quality time, and your partner might be acts of service. So straight away, there can be a different communication style going on in terms of love language. And often we try and provide our care, nurturing, and support the way that we like it shown. But that's not necessarily the same language as your partner. So you've really got to understand, what that might be for one another. Communicate that. So if your partner knows that you're an acts of service kind of person, then they can respond in that way and obviously meet your needs in the way that you would like. You will feel more supported if your partner is reciprocating that way of care and nurturing in the way that you connect with. So definitely knowing that about one another. And I think there is like surveys and stuff that you can take online somewhere about the 5 love languages. So do a bit of a Google. You can do a Google if you like, but do a bit of a Google, guys. You both might be able to take that survey and really gain an understanding of what your language is, what their language is, and maybe what you need to do differently to become more connected in that regards. knowing that can open up conversations, open up more productive discussions, and also bypass misunderstandings, because you know whether you're on the same page or not, and there's likely to be less misunderstanding in a circumstance where you know what your partner needs and you're able to respond to that more effectively. The final point that I want to make on this, guys, before I do a little bit of a recap, is that it is very important that your needs are responded to and you do feel supported in a relationship. But there's also a big responsibility on yourself to make sure that you are responsible for your own levels of happiness. So always placing that expectation on somebody else, or having really unrealistic expectations about your needs, and how responsible your partner might be for all of your needs, can be a surefire way of being in a relationship that you have, I suppose, high levels of resentment, high levels of feeling unsupported, that your needs are not being met, if you are placing all of those expectations on somebody else. So make sure that you're not deflecting too much responsibility onto your partner to be able to meet all of those needs, because I can tell you now, it's a very slippery slope if you think that your partner is going to be able to meet all of your emotional, psychological, and physical needs, and you'll be bitterly disappointed because they often can't deliver on all of that. So I think if you kind of get to the core of understanding that, yes, in a healthy and functioning relationship, your partner is going to be able to be responsive to some of those needs, but that you are effectively responsible for, disconnect and communicating if those needs are not being met, providing your partner an opportunity to understand how to respond to those needs and what those needs might be, and then giving them the opportunity, obviously, to carry out some of the behaviours that are consistent with the way that you like to be supported. But that they're not responsible for absolutely anything and everything in an emotional, psychological, and a physical sense, in terms of your needs being responded to. Okay, so let's do a bit of a recap, guys, in terms of how you can put strategies in place to feel more supported in your relationship, and also what you can do as a couple to communicate better, feel more connected, and then therefore just have a better understanding of what it is that your partner might need to create those higher levels of connection. And I suppose, what's that word that I'm looking for? Not consistency, compatibility. I'm looking for compatibility. All right, so being open in your communication, using I statements to talk about your feelings, identify, what might be going wrong in a non-accusatory way, and then stating what you would like to feel supported. Making sure that your partner, or that you realise that your partner may not realise what it is exactly that you need. So having unrealistic expectations and not necessarily communicating those can be really challenging to, a situation where you're not feeling supported. So making sure that you're being open about that, and not having unstated or unrealistic expectations. Knowing what your love languages are. Are you somebody that needs words of praise? Do you need quality time? Are you somebody that likes to give and receive gifts? Are you a physical touch and affection type person, or do you like acts of service? So feeling supported when you subscribe to one of those dominant ways of, I suppose, liking your care and affection and feeling supported, they really need to know which one of those that you subscribe to, so that they can personalize that and be responsive in the ways that you would like. Knowing this can actually open up conversation. It can also bypass misunderstandings. Not returning serve, so not entering into a pissing contest and, just because you're not feeling supported, returning serve on that and not being supportive back. Making sure that you are role modelling supportive behaviours, and that you are, if your partner has a skill deficit in, being supportive of you and they don't really know how to do it, that you are actually modelling what that looks like, and hopefully they're able to see how that works and they're able to respond and model that behaviour back. And finally, accepting that your needs and what you, I suppose, what your preferences are, how you like to feel supported in an emotional, psychological, and a physical way is not always the responsibility of your partner. So making sure that you're not placing all of that expectation on that one person to be able to deliver and meet all of those needs. That actually there's lots of different resources that you need to result in you feeling like you're living a meaningful and fulfilled lifestyle, and that you're feeling connected in your relationships. So there we go, guys. I hope that's been helpful. There's lots of people watching tonight, and that's awesome. Hey, Sarah, I hope you found the content really helpful, and that you, go and have a look on the internet about the 5 love languages. They're very well researched. There's often some tests that you can take between yourselves to work out which one you subscribe to. So there we go, guys. There's the live broadcast for a Tuesday night. As always, I hope it's been helpful and you've enjoyed the content. And if you have enjoyed the content, and if you feel like somebody needs to be watching this, maybe you could give them a little tag, or you could share it along, or you could like it so they might happen to see it on your news feed. So there we go, guys. I will see you all next week. Bye for now.